In the shadows of Alexandria's golden palaces, where marble floors echoed with whispers of power and betrayal, lived a queen who could command empires with a glance. Cleopatra VII, the woman whose beauty was legendary, but whose cunning was feared even more. Behind the jeweled curtains of her court lay not only luxury and seduction, but also treachery, poison, and secrets that shaped the fate of the ancient world. The truth is far darker than the romantic tales of Cleopatra and her lovers. Her court was not only a throne of splendor, but a labyrinth of hidden agendas, political murders, and forbidden rituals. What happened in Cleopatra's court was not meant for the world to see. Yet these secrets decided the destiny of Rome, Egypt, and history itself. If you think Cleopatra was merely a tragic lover of Caesar and Mark Antony, then prepare to see a different truth, one the history books dare only to whisper. Stay with me until the end, and you will discover how her intelligence, ambition, and ruthless courtly intrigues made her one of the most dangerous and misunderstood rulers in history. Cleopatra VII Philopator was born in 69 BCE, in a palace where marble halls glistened with gold, and every chamber echoed with the footsteps of conspirators. Egypt, at the time, was both a jewel and a prey, an ancient kingdom of unimaginable wealth that Rome was eager to possess. Cleopatra grew up not in innocence, but in an atmosphere where daggers were hidden in smiles, and even family dinners could turn into deadly traps. The dynasty she was born into, the Ptolemies, was notorious for its blood-soaked family rivalries. Brothers poisoned brothers, sisters plotted against sisters, and mothers betrayed their own children to secure power. Cleopatra learned very young that in her court, survival was not about kindness or loyalty. It was about intelligence, manipulation, and knowing exactly when to strike. Unlike many queens of the ancient world, Cleopatra was not only beautiful, but highly educated. She was fluent in 9 languages, including Egyptian, a rarity among her Greek-descended family. She studied philosophy, astronomy, medicine, and politics. But most importantly, she mastered the art of persuasion. While Rome boasted armies, Cleopatra possessed a weapon even stronger: her voice, her mind, and her ability to bend the will of men who thought themselves untouchable. When her father, Ptolemy XII Elites, died, Cleopatra inherited not just a crown but a kingdom on the verge of collapse. The Roman Republic was growing ever stronger, and Egypt was sinking into chaos. At just 18 years old, she was declared co-ruler with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, barely a child, but already surrounded by greedy advisors. Cleopatra knew she could not simply share power. In Alexandria, rulership was not about equality, it was about domination. The young queen quickly realized that her court was a nest of vipers. Advisors whispered lies to her brother, generals swore loyalty only to betray. And even the priests of the great temples looked for Rome's approval more than Egypt's. Cleopatra understood that if she hesitated even for a moment, she would be cast aside, or worse, eliminated. Her first years on the throne were marked by relentless plotting. Cleopatra had to navigate assassins in the shadows of the palace, servants bribed to spy on her, and endless attempts by her brother's guardians to push her into irrelevance. Yet Cleopatra was not a woman to be silenced. She would attend court dressed not only in jewels but in symbols of divine power, presenting herself as the living goddess Isis. By merging politics with religion, she ensured that even the common people saw her as more than mortal. But her brother's advisors, led by the ruthless Pothinus, plotted her downfall. Soon, Cleopatra was forced to flee Alexandria. For a brief moment, it seemed as though her rule was over. But exile only sharpened her determination. She would return, not as a victim, but as a conqueror. And fate soon delivered her the opportunity in the form of Julius Caesar, Rome's most powerful general. The famous story of Cleopatra smuggling herself into Caesar's presence rolled up in a carpet is often told as a tale of seduction. But the deeper truth is that Cleopatra was playing a deadly game of survival. By presenting herself not as a desperate exile, but as a bold queen unafraid to break rules, she captured Caesar's imagination. More importantly, she secured his support in reclaiming her throne. When Caesar's legions clashed with her brother's forces in Alexandria, the palace turned into a war zone. Fires consumed parts of the great library of Alexandria, and blood spilled across the Nile's waters. In the end, Ptolemy XIII was defeated and drowned while fleeing. Cleopatra, now in her early 20s, emerged not only as queen, but as Rome's favored ally. Yet even as she ruled with Caesar's backing, her court remained filled with danger. Every feast, every whispered conversation, could hold the seed of betrayal. Cleopatra relied on a network of spies, informants, and loyalists who reported even the smallest plots. Some say she used poisoners, hidden chambers, and secret trials to keep her enemies at bay. While history paints her as a temptress, in reality, she was a strategist who understood that a queen who trusted too easily would not live long. Her relationship with Caesar brought her both security and scandal. She bore him a son, Caesarion, hoping he would one day unite the Roman and Egyptian thrones. But in Rome, Cleopatra was hated and feared. To the Romans, she was not a queen but a foreign sorceress who had bewitched their beloved general. When Caesar was assassinated in 44 BCE, Cleopatra's future seemed once again uncertain. Rome plunged into civil war, and Cleopatra had to choose carefully whom to support. She allied herself with Mark Antony, a man of immense ambition but also dangerous weaknesses. Their partnership has been remembered as one of history's greatest love stories, but in truth, it was an alliance of survival and power. Antony needed Egypt's wealth to fund his wars, and Cleopatra needed Antony's armies to protect her throne. In her court, the luxuries grew more dazzling, but so did the conspiracies. Cleopatra surrounded herself with scholars, generals, and priests, yet every one of them was a potential traitor. She staged elaborate banquets not only to impress, but to test loyalty. Food tasters ensured no dish was poisoned. Musicians played while guards watched for daggers hidden beneath robes. Cleopatra herself was never without hidden guards. Beyond the glittering halls, darker rituals unfolded. Some accounts suggest that Cleopatra consulted mystics and practiced forbidden rites to secure her reign. Whether these were true or exaggerated by her enemies, they contributed to the aura of fear surrounding her. In the Roman imagination, Cleopatra's court became a place of sin and sorcery, a nest where Rome's greatest men were ensnared. Her union with Antony escalated into open defiance against Rome's new master, Octavian, later Augustus. This rivalry would decide not only Cleopatra's fate, but Egypt's very existence. Octavian painted Cleopatra as a manipulative temptress who had enslaved Antony, convincing the Roman people that their true enemy was not Antony himself, but the foreign queen who ruled him. As war loomed, Cleopatra's court became a fortress of secrets. Every decision, every whispered word, could determine whether Egypt would survive or fall. She armed her navy, stockpiled treasures, and prepared for the ultimate confrontation. But even within her walls, betrayal was never far. Some of her generals questioned her, others quietly reached out to Octavian. Cleopatra knew that trust was an illusion, only control mattered. The fateful Battle of Actium in 31 BCE sealed her destiny. Antony's fleet, weakened by poor strategy and divided loyalty, fell to Octavian's forces. Cleopatra, realizing the battle was lost, withdrew with her ships, an act that Antony's enemies painted as cowardice, though it was a desperate attempt to preserve Egypt. After Actium, the walls of her palace felt more like a prison. Antony, broken and humiliated, spiraled into despair. Cleopatra, however, did not surrender easily. She considered fleeing east, raising another army, even negotiating with Octavian himself. Her court, once a place of glittering intrigue, became a chamber of fear. Advisors whispered, guards shifted their loyalties, and the queen herself prepared for the inevitable. In 30 BCE, Octavian's armies reached Alexandria. Antony, believing Cleopatra had betrayed him, fell upon his sword. Mortally wounded, he was carried to her, and in a final, tragic embrace, he died in her arms. Cleopatra, left alone to face Octavian, made one last attempt to preserve her dynasty. She tried to negotiate her son Caesarion's succession, offering treasures and pledges. But Octavian had already decided Egypt would become Rome's prize. Cleopatra understood the truth. To be paraded in chains through Rome as a conquered queen would destroy not only her dignity, but Egypt's legacy. She chose a different path. According to legend, she arranged for a basket of figs to be brought to her chamber, hiding within it the deadly SP. With calm defiance, Cleopatra embraced death on her own terms, leaving Octavian with only her lifeless body. Her court died with her. The golden halls of Alexandria became Rome's, her secrets buried beneath centuries of propaganda. But whispers remain, of poisonings, secret tunnels, forbidden rituals, and the queen whose mind was sharper than any Roman sword. Cleopatra was not just a seductress. She was a survivor, a strategist, a ruler who walked a razor's edge between glory and destruction. The dark secrets of her court remind us that history is rarely what it seems, and that behind every legend lies a truth far more dangerous. Don't scroll. Cleopatra's court was far more than romance or legend. Within its golden walls hid deadly secrets, betrayals, and cunning strategies that shaped empires. Watch closely as we reveal the truth behind the queen's power, the conspiracies, and the intelligence Rome feared. Stay until the end. History will shock you. Cleopatra's death did not mark the end of her influence. It marked the beginning of a story rewritten by the victors, designed to suppress her power and intellect. While Roman accounts painted her as a seductive temptress who lured powerful men to ruin, the reality was far more complex. She had been a shrewd politician, a strategic thinker, and a ruler who navigated the treacherous currents of empire with skill few could match. Her court, meticulously organized and fiercely guarded, had been a center of intelligence, diplomacy, and survival. After Cleopatra and Mark Antony died, Egypt became a Roman province, its wealth and resources absorbed into Rome's ever-expanding empire. Alexandria, once a hub of learning and culture, was transformed under Octavian's authority into a city that symbolized Roman dominance. Cleopatra's image was carefully manipulated. Her intellect and achievements were downplayed, replaced with stories emphasizing beauty and seduction. Yet fragments of history and archaeology hint at the reality. She had been a brilliant administrator, a tactician, and a master of political intrigue. Cleopatra had built an extensive network of loyalists, spies, and informants who protected her throne and ensured that conspiracies were discovered before they could materialize. Documents and letters suggest that she orchestrated covert communications across the Mediterranean, gathering intelligence not only on her rivals in Alexandria, but also on Rome itself. Poisonings, secret trials, and clandestine interrogations were tools she used with precision, maintaining control over a volatile court filled with ambition and deception. Even her alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, often reduced to tales of romance, were calculated decisions to protect Egypt and consolidate power. Caesar's support had allowed her to reclaim the throne from her brother, while Antony's partnership provided military strength and political leverage. Her intelligence and charisma ensured that both men valued her counsel as much as they admired her presence. Octavian, aware of Cleopatra's influence and genius, ensured that her legacy would be minimized. Roman historians were commissioned to portray her as a dangerous foreign seductress rather than a sovereign ruler. Cleopatra's children, including Caesarion, were eliminated to prevent any continuation of her dynastic ambitions. Her court, once vibrant with strategy, alliances, and subtle political maneuvers, fell silent under Roman control. Libraries, previously repositories of knowledge and strategy, were repurposed to serve Roman propaganda. Despite Roman efforts to erase her power, Cleopatra's influence persisted in subtle ways. Coins bearing her image and inscriptions reinforced her authority, blending religious symbolism with political messaging. Temples, monuments, and administrative centers she had developed remained, leaving behind evidence of her governance. Scholars note that her systems of intelligence, diplomacy, and economic management were sophisticated, comparable to modern political networks. Her court had functioned not only as a center of ceremony and luxury, but as a hub for administration, strategy, and surveillance. Even within Rome, private accounts reveal fear and respect for Cleopatra's intellect. Senators, generals, and advisors spoke cautiously of her abilities, acknowledging that she had outmaneuvered Caesar, controlled Antony, and maintained Egypt's independence despite Roman pressure. Her court had been a laboratory of influence. Every interaction, every display of power, and every subtle maneuver was designed to consolidate authority and protect her realm. Cleopatra's children, particularly Caesarion, were symbols of the continuation of her strategic vision. Octavian's decision to eliminate them ensured that Egypt would fall under Roman control, extinguishing the possibility of a dynasty that could challenge Rome. Yet through coins, inscriptions, and architectural remnants, her court continued to reflect her skill in governance and power. Alexandria's monuments and urban design reveal a ruler who combined spectacle with calculated control, blending religion, culture, and politics into an inseparable framework of authority. Her intelligence was not limited to politics. It extended to economics, military planning, and cultural influence. Cleopatra managed grain shipments to Rome, balancing diplomacy with economic leverage. She maintained loyalty within her court through rewards, punishments, and careful monitoring of advisors. Her use of intelligence networks allowed her to anticipate threats, identify traitors, and respond with precision. Cleopatra's court was a theater of strategy, where appearances often concealed the calculated exercise of power. The Roman portrayal of Cleopatra as a seductress obscures her true genius. Archaeological evidence, historical letters, and administrative records suggest that she had orchestrated one of the most sophisticated political systems in the ancient world. Her strategies extended beyond Egypt's borders, involving alliances, negotiations, and intelligence gathering that rivaled any Roman statesman. Cleopatra's court had been a place where knowledge was power, secrecy was protection, and cunning ensured survival. Even after her death, the impact of her rule continued to shape the region. Egypt's administration, trade networks, and cultural influence were imprinted by her policies. Her court had demonstrated how a ruler could manipulate information, control perception, and maintain authority in a world dominated by men. Cleopatra had wielded intelligence and strategy as deftly as any sword, turning danger into advantage and consolidating her position against overwhelming odds. The dark secrets of Cleopatra's court, from hidden assassins to intelligence networks, from poisonings to subtle psychological maneuvers, reveal a reality far more compelling than the myths of romance. Her life was a testament to the exercise of power through intellect, foresight, and careful orchestration of influence. Every decision, every alliance, and every secret contributed to the preservation of her rule and the protection of her nation. Historians, archaeologists, and scholars today continue to uncover traces of her court's complexity. Fragments of letters, coins, administrative tablets, and ruins offer glimpses into a world where governance, loyalty, and survival were intertwined. Cleopatra's court was a microcosm of power, blending ceremony, politics, intelligence, and religion into a seamless strategy for maintaining authority. Even centuries later, her methods are studied as models of leadership, diplomacy, and crisis management. Cleopatra's death marked the end of her personal reign, but the lessons of her court endure. The network of spies, advisors, and loyalists she had cultivated, the strategies she employed, and the secrets she guarded provide insight into one of history's most formidable rulers. Her court, once alive with intrigue and danger, became a symbol of female intelligence, resilience, and political mastery that transcends the simplified tales of romance. The Roman rewriting of her story ensured that Cleopatra would be remembered for her allure rather than her intellect. But the evidence speaks differently. Coins, inscriptions, and fragments of documents suggest that she exercised remarkable control over her realm. She balanced diplomacy with force, economic planning with cultural influence, and intelligence gathering with personal charisma. Her court exemplified how knowledge, strategy, and foresight can secure power in a dangerous and unpredictable world. In conclusion, Cleopatra's court was not merely a backdrop for romance or myth. It was a highly organized, strategic, and deadly environment where survival depended on intelligence, observation, and cunning. The queen herself mastered these elements, using every tool at her disposal to maintain authority and protect Egypt. The secrets of her court, hidden from public view for centuries, reveal a ruler whose intellect and strategic vision rivaled that of any leader in history. Cleopatra's legacy lies not in the stories of lovers, but in the artful exercise of power, the subtle manipulation of politics, and the enduring lessons of her court.